Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's April 13th. This will be our chart lesson for today. A really slow day. In the end, I believe we spent most of the day in this two-tiered downward channel. There wasn't much happening until maybe just after 11 o'clock. Maybe it didn't crank up until the afternoon, and there were a couple of decent trades late in the afternoon. But for the most part, there just wasn't any volatility or any movement early on. Once we started going lower here, I definitely would have been looking for, what am I looking for? I'm looking for an arrow there. I would have been looking for a measured move on that. And you can see we went a little bit further than that. And that's a good signal that, hey, this thing is maybe a little weak right now. We tried and tried to go higher and just couldn't muster up anything, and then eventually sell off. And the market actually closes down. We closed down around 2087, I would call it, and we opened up around 2095. So not even 10 points, about 8 point move there that we closed down. So just not a lot of movement today. So there weren't a whole lot of trades. The three best trades were late in the afternoon, and there was one trade possibly early this morning that you could have caught. I'll talk about it, and but just not a lot of movement today. And we really spent most of the time within this. It looks more like a trading range, really, with a little breakout late in the day, with the lows being right around that 2089, maybe 89 and close to 2090, and the highs being up here most of the day, really around 2100. So just not much going on today. So I would call it a range with, I mean, really this is a downtrend. It started, let's just see, right around 9:30, and it really right into the close, but it came so late in the day, and we noticed how we still found that support near the overnight lows. It took a little while to work through there. So just not much happening today. It's just, I understand Friday. There was a little bit of movement Friday. This is a pretty nice little trend here. It's not very large again. Um, but anyway, let's talk about the trades for today. This will be fairly quick because there's just not much happening, and then we'll move along. But if you were trading today, I'll be honest with you, it would have been tempting to go short right here, but you really don't get a good short setup until this bar, and it never broke lower than that on my chart. But even if it did, you can't go short right there, right into the low of the overnight, right before the open, because there's a good chance that he flip-flop it, and that's what happened. It's a little risky going long. This is a fairly bullish bar, but it didn't close on its high. Then this bar couldn't close above it, although it did close right there again. So it's a second entry long too. Look at this pullback, first entry, pullback, second entry. And this is looking a lot like a range, to be honest. When you don't get any more movement than that during the overnight, it's kind of quiet and slow. So, you know, I still think it's a little bit aggressive because it's not the greatest setup, although it's not a horrible setup, but everything's below the EMA. So that if this was sitting right above or right on the EMA, I would have liked it a little bit better. But this is a little bit risky, but you definitely would rather go long here than short because, all the movement's been down and you want to get long at the lows and you want to get short at the highs. And so if you're going to do anything, you want to go long here. You definitely don't want to go short based on what I just told you. And if you caught this trade, great move. And then it pulls back here and gives you a failed second entry short and a little bitty bar. And it's really a breakout pullback long too. But again, it's so close to the highs, and you didn't get that little break lower right there that would normally give you, let me make this a little bigger, a little bit of a trap. So I think it's risky going long there. Although we've got a pretty good move, trend working higher now. So I think you're better off to wait for it to come back to the EMA, and notice it doesn't do that to here. And then you get a first entry with just a little couple of doji stacked up. So just kind of wait. And then it's kind of clear that you're finding strong resistance here, and and when it bounces again here, and you get this little bitty bar, and this almost looks like a repeat pattern um, with that little inside bar to this right here. Um, I kind of like that one to the long side. You got enough room to maybe get out before you get up here, and this one keeps on going. And of course, it fails out the top. So now you got your break, you move to a new high, and a nice little uh, bearish bar up here, a good bit away from the EMA, and a failed break out of a trading range right there. It's real obvious. So I like that one to the short side. Turned out it took a little while to get moving. Turned out to be a pretty good trade though. And if you caught that one, if you want to hang on through all this, you can ride this all the way down. But I think you got to exit this right down here near these lows. And then you just kind of got to wait, and it kind of gets hung up again. But notice it broke lower here, and it was tempting to go long right there. But there's just too many bars stacked up. Everything's below the EMA. It's, um, it's just, there's just too many bars there. And if you did get caught right there, when it kept, when it couldn't go any higher, you should have gotten out somewhere over here. Don't let it come all the way down here and stop you out down here, because that's where your stop should have been. I would have exited this thing if you got caught on that, but I don't see any reason to go long there either, to be honest. It's just too much overlap, too many bars stacked up side by side. And then you just kind of wait, and you finally get a little second entry over here. You get that first couple of bars, although, and it continues to test that same line. But notice how you had a little higher low there, and then it breaks down. I kind of like that, thinking, hey, you may get a measured move, which I showed you the measured move a minute ago, and it actually went further, meaning in the end that, hey, it may be a little weaker than what you expected. So when you get another chance to get in here, you want to take it. But you might have entered here or considered entering here, but notice how we're making a higher high each time. I just think that's a little bit aggressive, although it is a little bitty bar. And you get a chance to go short at the highs almost. We've moved several swings higher there, but this is just looking so rangy that you don't know that it doesn't bounce like it tries to here and go higher. So I think you got to wait on this little trap and go short right there. Um, and I think that kind of confirms the trend line working down across there as well. Then you move down and you get a pullback first entry, pullback second entry, and a nice little bearish bar right there. You're looking for a move down to test these lows. That's the first break of this little channel, and it just takes off. And so at that point, you probably want to go ahead and look for a measured move like this one. And you see it actually goes a little further again. Indicating that the market has definitely gotten weaker. But this would have been a great place to exit right down here at the previous lows. Notice you would have gotten out within about 2 or 3 ticks of the low, and then you just kind of ride this out again until you get a second entry short right here with a big bearish bar, and you got really a triple top, so that's a double test of that high right there. But that's a big bearish bar. Just go short right there. And then it comes back and gives you another second entry short. And notice we haven't gotten quite had a measured move down yet. This is a two-tiered channel, and notice how we haven't gotten to those lows yet. That would have been the only thing that might keep you going here, hoping that this is right, this channel is right, which in the end I believe it was. Somebody actually sent me something about a channel. Well, we'll go back to that in a minute. But that got you into, that was actually after the 2 o'clock hour, so but I went ahead and marked it. It was a pretty good setup, and it's not a perfect signal bar, but the market's looking really weak, and we haven't hit this low yet. And then a lot of times you're going to get 2 legs down to a new low after a break. So the other thing you might have done is measure this and move it over here and look for a measured move. And you see we got that basically to the tick right there. Maybe 1 tick short, but if it is, it's just real close. So, and that got you into the close of the day. And like I said, this one was real close to the it's actually after the 2 o'clock hour. So generally, I'm not crazy about taking those trades, but I went ahead and marked it anyway because there wasn't much happening before. So there could have been some people still hanging on or looking for maybe to try to make something late in the afternoon. But that's really all there was to it today. Not a whole lot, but somebody else sent me their chart, and I think they were looking at something. I think this is what they were looking at right here. You can see that fits okay. The only problem was, and I think they actually had a midline in here. And, it does look valid. You can't argue that it's wrong because it does look valid. But the only problem I have with it is when you got to here, you don't have a confirmation. This is your first two swings. And so this is where you would have expected it to bounce and give you the confirmation, but it doesn't. It goes right on through and it comes back and tries to test it and it can't even get back to test it. So, um, is it valid? I don't know. And maybe, um, and it doesn't mean that it's not valid, but it didn't really help you, I guess was my, that was basically what I ended up telling him. It doesn't really help you. Because where you're looking for a bounce, you don't even get it. So, um, needless to say, is it right or wrong? I'm not saying he was wrong, but it just didn't really come into play to help you. So, um, but if you look at the one I have drawn to the downside, it seems like even though you never really got a confirmation of it, prices never got back that far. But look what happens when you test the midline on both sides. Um, and then look where it bounces, a perfect measured move between the upper and the lower side. So um, turns out to be very valid. So, and it does help you with your trading because it allows you to stay with these trades here because you haven't reached the lower side. And that's really, not much else to talk about today. Hopefully the market will pick up again. And in the end, it was, there weren't a lot of trades today. And in the end, it didn't move a whole lot, but it still, gave you a couple of decent trades later in the afternoon. At least, I would say at least two here, maybe three. And, the market's just a little slow right now. So, maybe tomorrow will be better. Maybe the rest of the week will be better. But I'm going to wrap it up for today. Just not much else I can talk about today. So I'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.